You feel it, don't you? The sting of heartbreak, the knot of anxiety when you're criticized or ghosted, the slow burn of rejection that keeps you awake at 3 a.m. In these moments, you might swear to yourself, never again. I will never let myself be hurt like this again. This vow usually means building walls, hiding your true feelings, avoiding risks, chasing any trick to feel safe from pain. What if the secret to never being hurt again lies in becoming so strong in spirit that life's slings and arrows cannot break you? But what if true safety isn't found in hiding? This is not about quick comfort or hollow positivity. It's a plunge into the fierce philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche, a man who rejected comfortable lies and demanded that we face life unflinching. Nietzsche's words are bold, honest, and at times ruthless, but within their fire lies a promise of transformation. He challenges our modern habit of seeking a painless existence. He calls us to harden our souls to find meaning and even beauty in suffering so that no injury can defeat us. As Nietzsche famously said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." These are not just edgy words on a t-shirt. They are a dare to transform pain into power. We'll journey through Nietzsche's key ideas, from the illusion of emotional safety we cling to, through his razor-sharp diagnosis of why we're so easily wounded toward the ideal of the Übermensch with his radical self-sovereignty. We'll embrace amor fati, the love of one's fate, pain included, and even touch on modern insights like anti-fragility, growing stronger through chaos. This is a bold, poetic, and confrontational exploration meant for those tired of feeling weak and ready to ignite their spiritual toughness. So if you're someone who has been knocked down by life, made insecure by heartache, social rejection, or the feeling of never being enough, Nietzsche's philosophy will not coddle you. It will provoke you, yes, even wound you at first with its honesty. But if you stay with it, it may also inspire you to rise up stronger than ever. Prepare to confront some hard truths and liberating insights. By the end, you might just discover that the way to never be hurt again is not to avoid pain, but to use it. To transform yourself into someone who thrives on challenge and loves their fate, come what may. We live in a world that worships comfort. From soft apologies for the slightest offense to the endless pursuit of likes and approval, we are told that a good life is a pain-free life. We construct an illusion of emotional safety. If we never risk, never struggle, never offend or be offended, we think we can avoid being hurt. Nietzsche saw this trend long before the age of social media. He warned that the drive to eliminate all hardship would drain humanity of its vitality. Are we not? He asks with this tremendous objective of obliterating all the sharp edges of life, well on the way to turning mankind into sand. Sand. Small, soft, round, unending sand. In seeking a perfectly safe existence without sharp edges, we risk becoming like grains of sand, bland, tiny, and weak. Nietzsche gives a name to the ultimate comfort seekers, the last men. We have invented happiness, say the last men, and they blink. The last men shun any challenge. They have left the regions where it was hard to live, for one needs warmth. One still works for work as a form of entertainment, but one is careful lest the entertainment be too harrowing. One no longer becomes poor or rich. Both require too much exertion. Everybody wants the same, everybody is the same. Whoever feels different goes voluntarily into a madhouse. This is Nietzsche's scathing caricature of modern humanity, utterly safe and utterly mediocre. These last men feel no deep sorrow, but also no great joy. They simply exist comfortable and numb. Their happiness is not triumphant or noble. Nietzsche calls it wretched contentment. That wretched contentment is a false paradise of feeling okay, but never alive. It's the person who avoids asking anyone out after a breakup, so they'll never get hurt again. And as a result, drifts through lonely, lukewarm days. Safe, perhaps. Meaningful, hardly. Nietzsche believed that when we trade growth for comfort, we also trade away our dignity and potential. Well-being, as you understand it. That is no goal. It makes man ridiculous and contemptible. He wrote ridiculing those who aspire only to an easy life. The illusion of emotional safety tells us that avoiding pain is the highest good. But Nietzsche turns this upside down. What if avoiding pain is precisely what makes us weak? What if those who seek nothing but comfort shrink into something less than fully human? By cushioning ourselves against every minor discomfort, we might also lose the chance to build resilience or achieve something great. As the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy notes, Nietzsche held that a culture obsessed with pity, ease, and equality would eliminate the conditions for the realization of human excellence. In other words, our bubble-wrapped world might protect us from some hurt, but it can also rob us of greatness. If any of this sounds familiar, Nietzsche's voice cuts through. Is that your ideal, you heralds of comfortable living? He challenges us to feel what he calls the hour of great contempt, when you look at your petty contentment and declare, "What does my happiness matter?" It is poverty and filth and wretched contentment. Only when you become disgusted with your own avoidance can you find the courage to step beyond it. The illusion of safety must shatter, and in its fragments you can begin to build a stronger self. Why are we so easily hurt by life's slights and sorrows? Nietzsche would say it's not simply because life is cruel, it's because of how we react to life's cruelty. In Nietzsche's analysis, many of us live with a wounded psychology that actually magnifies pain. We have been taught to fear suffering and to see ourselves as victims when we suffer. We cling to values that encourage fragility. Nietzsche cuts to the core. Being easily wounded often comes from weakness, a harsh word, but let's understand what he means by it. One reason is what Nietzsche calls ressentiment, a French word for a deep, seething form of resentment. When hurt, the weak person doesn't move on or overcome. He stews. He blames others' society, the universe, for his suffering. Ressentiment is a bitter form of resentment. One blames an external cause for one's pain and deems oneself virtuous for suffering. Feeling weak, a person says, "I'm hurt by them, so they are evil and I am good." This coping mechanism, Nietzsche argues, is how the morality of the weak arises. It traps people in a cycle of blame and bitterness, magnifying their sensitivity. Instead of growing tougher, we cultivate our own pain like a twisted garden. Nietzsche believed this attitude was toxic. It traps us in bitterness and blame that only amplifies our sensitivity. Instead of developing strength, we secretly cherish our weakness as a moral badge. Another part of Nietzsche's diagnosis is that we have embraced a morality that treats comfort and safety as good and suffering as bad, no matter what. Modern culture, from religion preaching pity to secular values of happiness, is, as Nietzsche sees it, obsessed with eliminating suffering. The result? We're not prepared for suffering when it comes. We have no noble framework to understand hardship. We see no value in it. So even minor pains prick us like daggers. We have thin skin, spiritually speaking. Nietzsche contrasts this with the ethos of stronger souls, the discipline of suffering, of great suffering. Do you not know that only this discipline has created all enhancements of man so far? All that is profound, courageous, and great in us, he says, comes through suffering, through facing it, interpreting it, and overcoming it. But if an entire society trains us that suffering is pointless and to be avoided at all costs, then naturally we become brittle. We lose the muscle for pain. Nietzsche even suggests that an age of comfort produces people of delicate physiological overexcitability, nervously sensitive, easily upset. A morality of sympathy where we endlessly commiserate with suffering is, he says, just a symptom of this weakness. Think of it today. We often validate each other's victimhood so much that we inadvertently encourage staying hurt. Nietzsche would accuse us of coddling the very weakness we need to root out. His prescription is the opposite toughen up by building a stronger self. We are easy to wound, Nietzsche shows, because we have been coddled into weakness and because we often make a virtue of being wounded. The path out begins with a brutal honesty. Stop wasting your pain. Every insult, every heartbreak, every setback can either be the seed of resentment or the seed of greatness. The choice, painful as it is ours. Consider a scenario someone you care about suddenly ghosts you. The fragile response is to despair or resent them, thinking, "This always happens. I must be worthless." The Nietzschean response would be, "This hurts, but let me examine why. Did I rely too much on their approval? How can I become more self-sufficient?" Instead of pitying yourself, you use the rejection as a spur to greater independence. Nietzsche would want you to grow from the experience, not wilt. Ultimately, Nietzsche doesn't deny that life hurts. On the contrary, he thought deep suffering is virtually guaranteed for anyone who lives fully, but he utterly rejects the modern cry to be protected from suffering. Great pain he praises as the ultimate teacher, saying it liberates the spirit and makes us more profound. If we remain easy to wound, we remain shallow. Nietzsche wants us to develop depth, which often begins in pain. His verdict is uncompromising: use every pain as fuel to become stronger. It's the only way to ensure that one day you will indeed be very hard to hurt. How do we move from being easily hurt weaklings, as Nietzsche might provocatively call us, to becoming strong spirits who are almost unwoundable? Nietzsche's answer is embodied in one of his most famous concepts, the Übermensch, often translated as the Overman or Superman, not the comic book hero, but a new kind of human being. The Übermensch represents an individual who has overcome the timidity and frailty of ordinary humanity, someone who creates his own values and stands powerfully independent of the good or bad opinions of others. In short, a self-sovereign person. Behold, I teach you the Übermensch. Man is something that should be overcome. What have you done to overcome him? This him, the one to be overcome, is the ordinary human in us, the part that is weak, conformist, easily hurt, and dependent. The Übermensch is not about ruling over others, it's about ruling oneself. Self-mastery is the goal. Radical self-sovereignty over your inner life and values. Imagine reaching a state of mind where your worth does not depend on anyone else's approval or understanding. That is the freedom Nietzsche beckons us toward. Rather than look externally, the Übermensch is his own determiner of value. He transcends the petty needs of man and moves beyond illusions to live and take joy in the here and now, affirms his own character, and has the power and fortitude to say yes to all of life's joys and all of life's pains. This self-determining power is crucial. Many of us let society or peers dictate our self-worth. The Übermensch will not. He sets his own standards of success and virtue. Thus he becomes immune to insults, comparisons, and rejections, for those only hurt if you depend on others' approval. To strive toward this ideal, Nietzsche urges a kind of fierce autonomy. He often uses metaphors of art and nobility. Give style to your character. Live as if your life were a work of art, be the poets of your life. All these suggest that you must shape yourself actively instead of being shaped by others. A person who self-creates in this way gains a certain invulnerability. Not physical invulnerability. Life can still break your bones or give you illness. Nietzsche knew that all too well, but spiritual invulnerability. If you become the author of your identity and your values, no one can invalidate you. Criticism bounces off because you are no longer fighting on the battlefield of others' acceptance. You have, in essence, left that battlefield to forge your own kingdom of values. Nietzsche contrasts the emerging Übermensch with what we discussed earlier, the last man. Where the last man wants comfort and sameness, the Übermensch thrives on challenge and difference. Man is a rope tied between beast and Übermensch, a rope over an abyss. It's risky to walk that rope, to strive beyond the ordinary. You could fall into the abyss of failure or madness. But what is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. We are meant to be a bridge to something higher. This means embracing risk, uncertainty, and solitude as we transform ourselves. The Übermensch is willing to be lonely, misunderstood, even despised by the masses because he has a higher mission self-overcoming. Practically embracing the Übermensch ideal means rethinking where you derive your self-worth. Ask yourself, what do I truly value? If you've been measuring yourself by conventional metrics, money, social popularity, validation from others, Nietzsche would have you reevaluate. Are those your values, or just what you've been told to value? For example, you might decide that being truthful and authentic is worth more to you than being liked, so you speak your mind more boldly and let the chips fall where they may. This brings a remarkable toughness. If you are truly living by your own code, rejection loses much of its sting. A romantic interest dumps you. If you were genuine and gave your best according to your values, there is no self-reproach. You continue on your path, perhaps saddened, but not shattered. A group of peers mocks your life choices. If you chose them autonomously, their mockery feels irrelevant, like kids throwing pebbles at a castle wall. This is radical self-sovereignty. You are the ruler of the territory of your soul. Nietzsche's vision of the higher person is one who carries this royal bearing internally. Let's not sugarcoat it, getting there is difficult. It requires what Nietzsche calls Selbstüberwindung, self-overcoming. You have to overcome the timid, approval-seeking, complacent self within. It is an inner battle, and there are no shortcuts. It demands often periods of solitude, stepping away from the herd so you can hear your own voice free of others' clamor. Solitude for Nietzsche was the crucible of self-creation. You become stronger, yes, but also more joyous in your strength. One must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. That chaos is the inner struggle, the tempest of growth. The dancing star is the new self, brighter self, luminous and resilient. In shedding your old skin of passivity and hurt, you shine with a radiance that comes from within, not from the approval of others. You become a creator of value, a yes-sayer to life, and eventually someone who cannot be deeply wounded by the smallness of others. Perhaps Nietzsche's most beautiful and challenging idea is amor fati, a Latin phrase meaning love of fate. This goes even beyond resilience. Amor fati doesn't just ask you to endure the slings and arrows of life, it asks you to love them as part of your story. My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. To love your fate means to affirm everything that happens, the good and the bad, as somehow yours, somehow meaningful in the grand tapestry of your life. Imagine looking back at your most agonizing heartbreak, the day your partner left, the death of a loved one, the time you felt utterly betrayed, and saying, yes, I do not merely accept this, I embrace it. I would not erase this pain even if I could, because it is a part of me, a part of my fate, and I love all that I am and all that has made me. This sounds almost superhuman, doesn't it? Yet Nietzsche asks us to move in that direction. He even gives us a thought experiment, the eternal recurrence. He says, what if a demon told you that you must live your exact life on loop for eternity? Every pain and every joy repeated endlessly. A person who could shout yes to that proposition, who would will the eternal repetition of their life, nothing edited out, is one who has truly embraced amor fati. In Nietzsche's eyes, that is the ultimate affirmation of life, the mark of a Dionysian soul who says an unconditional yes to existence. Why would anyone want to love their fate, including the suffering? Because Nietzsche argues it's only by affirming our hardships that we can transmute them into growth. So long as you reject any part of your life, that shouldn't have happened to me. It's unfair. You are at war with your own existence. You remain fractured with a part of you always in revolt. But when you say yes, and thank you even to the pain, you rob the pain of its sting. You integrate it as a necessary step in your journey. This doesn't mean you enjoy the pain in the moment. It means you recognize it as meaningful. You resolve that it will serve you somehow, that you will make it serve you. This attitude is the opposite of how many of us approach past traumas or current struggles. We often carry regrets, wishing we could cut those chapters out of our story. Nietzsche, instead, would have us say, "Those dark chapters belong in my story. Without them, the book would be incomplete. I want them there." In practice, finding meaning in suffering might involve seeing how a heartbreak taught you independence, or how a failure pushed you onto a new path. It doesn't magically justify evil or erase hurt, but it gives you a way to redeem suffering. Consider a modern example. Imagine you were bullied and lonely in school. Instead of resenting this love, it as part of your fate. Perhaps that loneliness made you more creative or compassionate. Perhaps it drove you inward to find strength. Nietzsche would say that without that pain, you would not have the depth or insight you now have. Embracing it breaks the spell of victimhood. You stop seeing life as something that happens to you and recognize that you are co-creating meaning from even the tragedies. Those dark years become raw material for your growth. Nietzsche lived this credo to an extraordinary degree. He suffered incessant physical pain, migraines, eye problems, and illness, and endured profound loneliness and disappointment. Yet he later boasted that even in his worst bouts of sickness, he managed to turn his agony into clarity and cold insight. My formula for human greatness is amor fati, not only to bear what is necessary, but love it. Nietzsche refused to see himself as a victim of life. In fact, to live is to suffer to survive, is to find some meaning in the suffering echoes this Nietzschean spirit. When you practice amor fati, you are continually seeking and creating meaning out of every event. Life becomes a work of art, and in art even the dark and painful strokes contribute to the beauty of the whole. It's important to note, amor fati is empowering. It is not passive resignation, it is an active embrace. When you love your fate, you also shed your fear. If even suffering and loss are accepted, even welcomed, as part of the story, then what is left to fear? Rejection. You will use it to grow. Loss. You will grieve, but also honor it as part of your path. This mindset makes you anti-fragile in the deepest sense. You gain from chaos because you turn all of it into fuel. It's time to get practical. How do we actually cultivate this Nietzschean resilience and strength in everyday life? How do we become, in modern terms, anti-fragile? Things that not only withstand shocks, but grow stronger because of them. Here are some concrete tools and steps inspired by Nietzsche's insights. Embrace challenges. Voluntarily. Live dangerously. Don't wait for life's hardships to find you. Seek out tests that will build your toughness. The secret for harvesting from existence. The greatest fruitfulness and the greatest enjoyment is to live dangerously. Build your cities on the slopes of Vesuvius. Send your ships into uncharted seas. In practice, this means pushing yourself out of your comfort zone regularly. When you voluntarily take on challenges, you train your soul to handle stress and uncertainty. So rather than avoiding all conflict discomfort or effort purposely engage in manageable battles, reframe pain as growth. What doesn't kill me? The next time you are hurt, whether by an insult, a failure, or a loss, practice the Nietzschean reframe. Instead of thinking, "I'm broken," or "this is the end," tell yourself, "This is training." From life's school of war, what does not kill me makes me stronger. Literally pause and say the words if it helps. This isn't just a cliché, it's a mindset. By focusing on the strength gained, you diminish the sting of the loss. Kill victim mentality. No ressentiment or self-pity. Nietzsche has little patience for the poor me narrative. To become hard to hurt, you must take ownership of your life. Nietzsche would say, rid yourself of ressentiment. Let go of the impulse to blame and hold grudges because it keeps you psychologically enslaved to the hurt. Also be vigilant about self-pity. Cultivate your why purpose as armor. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. This is crucial. To be resilient, you need a purpose that anchors you. When you have a clear why, suffering becomes more tolerable because it serves that purpose. Ask yourself, what is truly worth suffering for? Once you have it, remind yourself of it whenever life gets tough. Purpose is like armor for the soul. Embrace solitude. Build self-sufficiency. We often get hurt because we depend too much on others, their affection, their validation, their company. Nietzsche suggests that learning to be at peace alone is a mark of the strong. Consciously practice solitude. Use that time to reflect on your life, to think independently, to create or just be. Solitude for recovery. The breath of a free, light, playful air. In solitude, you discover that your own company is not emptiness. It is freedom. These tools require practice. Nietzsche's path is not a quick fix. It's a lifelong training. Out of life's school of war, what does not kill me makes me stronger. Take that seriously. Treat life as a gym for your character. Every time you emerge from a hardship still standing, you've added another layer of unbreakable steel to your spirit. Nietzsche's approach to never being hurt again isn't to avoid suffering, but to forge a spirit that nothing can break. You will still feel pain, but you won't see it as defeat. You won't let it define you as a victim. Instead, you'll treat pain as part of the process, the fire that tempers the steel of your character. Think about your own life. Where have you been running from hurt? What if instead you faced it and said, "This too will make me stronger"? Imagine the freedom in that. It means no experience is wasted. It means you trust that whatever happens, you can turn it into wisdom. You become an alchemist of your own suffering, turning rejection into motivation and despair into understanding. Nietzsche's message is ultimately one of empowerment. He's like a stern coach who takes you up a steep, rocky path to a high summit. You realize that each time you were knocked down, you got up a bit tougher, a bit wiser. What have you done to overcome yourself? It's a question to carry with you. Now it's up to you to carry these insights forward. Nietzsche's call is a call to act, to live more boldly, to think more independently, to welcome the difficult moments instead of fleeing them. To live is to suffer to survive, is to find some meaning in the suffering. Go forward and live. Suffer, grow, and find meaning. on your own terms. Embrace the solitude, dare to self-overcome, and love your fate. This is Nietzsche's challenge and his gift to us.